Hello everybody, welcome back to episode 7 of my tutorial series for Songs of SYX version 63. So today we are going to get into a new material, to the crafting of cut stone, and I am going to talk about law, order, and justice. We're going to set up some prisons and some guard posts today. So I think this will be really enough for one episode. Let's get started with the stone cutting part. I did let the game go fast forward a tad bit to fill up my treasury a little bit because we will need to import materials for sure. In the meantime, well, not much has happened. We are still amping up the numbers of fabric makers and tailors, and yeah, apart from that, metal is slowly accruing, nothing special. So let's get started with the cut stone part, because cut stone is an amazing material to work with. It is, as soon as you have a quarry, limitless, and it is a good trade good. And I also happen to not find it currently. That new that new tech tree is getting me every time. Here, the masons. This is what we require. It's a pretty cheap technology, and it'll allow us to get ourselves the masons going. Masons upgrade stone into cut stone, and therefore I'm going to set this up more like in the vicinity of here, because this is where our quarry will be in the future. So I think a mason's workshop will be quite a good thing down here. Of course, this will also set up a new kind of town center, but I see it as a necessary evil, especially when you want to have a mine somewhere. Well, you will basically always have to set up some sort of a small town center, because the thing is quite simple. Mines do require so many workers that I personally find it nigh impossible to set them up without a huge backbone of all the things you require: housing, lavatories, canteens, a spot, a hearth. All these things are usually happening over the course of the time automatically when you have a mine somewhere. So might as well, to put this to an end, bring the new workshop to a point where we will actually get that stone out of the ground. So as you see here, the masonry is quite a costly business, costing us quite a lot of metal, but at the same time, it is so much worth it, simply because, this is a new building material. This is a fundamental building material as well. You can even make your buildings out of cut stone, if you'd want to. This is the costliest way of building, but it is possible. We're still going to suspend this job for now, because we want to set up law and order first, and this would otherwise, I think, steal my resources I require. Oh, no, here, the dungeon does require metal. So the dungeon has first grabs on the stockpiles we got, but we got to start with a guard post. So as you see here, the guard post is one of those static buildings which you are not allowed to create your own setup, but you can make it larger and smaller, as you see here. And you see radius 45 on the smallest, 67 on the second, and 180 on the last one. I personally think it is a huge waste of material to go for the smaller variants, because I personally find them underpowered, or the last size is overpowered. See it as you want to. But, if I can have, like, I don't know, this is almost triple as much range for, yes, the material costs are also higher. But, in this game, I personally have rather less buildings and get the job done, Here I can now set up the guard post in this area here, somewhere around there, and then I'd have most of the northern areas already covered. But here this is also a pretty interesting point to note. As you see here, this area is cut off because of the gorge there. So system is a little bit has its little kinks. We are going to set it up like here. There we go. Or, well, let's put it down here. Nah, this is a room. I'll just drop it down there. Right there. It's a hard decision currently for me, because basically, yeah, but I'm going to put it down here because when our city is growing downwards, we're going to set up a new guard post there. Okay, so the guard post now does require cut stone and armor. These are, well, the cut stone we've been already working with, but armor is a new material. Basically, we could make armor by ourselves already by having the right technology, either with metal or with leather. But, you know, we don't need to. This game is not urging you too hard to do everything by yourself, so we're just going to import those armors, or so I thought. Ah, brilliant. What did I think there? So obviously we don't have enough money here together to even afford this guard station. I really thought I had saved up enough. You see, the cut stone is way cheaper. So I'm going to fast forward this now behind the scenes so we have the materials together, because I really thought this money would be enough. Armor is costly, as you see. Alright, so I ordered the stuff. It is only a question of time now until it has been delivered. So as you see here, the largest guard post has its downsides, but in all honesty, armor is always quite the pain. And that's why I often forego and delay the entire law system a little bit, because, you know, law is really useless without a guard post. But the guard post is not all that we need, of course. We also need a good old-fashioned dungeon. So the dungeon is where the people that you catch doing crimes, that's where we lock them up, right? So we're going to make it up. Well, I'm not going to bring up a too huge dungeon. Here's the same logic again. I'd rather have a couple of dungeons over the place. And we're also going to make it rather modest. So you could bring up a lot of extra cells, but I'm going to bring up a design that respects my low amounts of metal currently. All right, let's do this like that. So with this, we have almost everything together. The only thing that we now still need are scaffolds to make sure that people are also getting their public treatment. People love the entertainment like this and the good old times. So we're going to set that up here somewhere in the town center. So here, a couple of gallows, a couple of chopping blocks, you know, the good old-fashioned stuff. And of course, decorations. So this is, by the way, instilling fear and not making people happy. There's two ways of keeping your citizens under control: happiness and fear. So the game, as far as I understood things, is trying to incentivize you in one route or another. I personally am most of the time more like a friendly player, but you can't see that as you want to. The other variant here is we can also bring up a stock. That's where people can then just get their punishment by being laughed at, you know. So we're going to set up a stock right next to the mines, so the miners have something to laugh at all day. Personally like that. It's a mine with a built-in entertainment system. High tech, you know. So jokes aside, you can of course set that up as you want to. The guard post is the most cost-intense part, but you know, it is that important. So here's the deal. What's really making people happy here is imprisoned people. The other thing which is making people happy, or at least Kryptonians, is when criminals get their process in court. thing about quartz, though, is, well, let me show you. A quart does require gemstones. So you could now, if you'd want to, set up a quart already. Nobody would stop you. By now you know how the things work. You just need to check out gemstone and import that stuff here, right? So you can't do that, except for the fact that 1 unit of gemstone is excessively costly. You could also set up a slaver and transform your prisoners into slaves that you can't sell afterwards. You just need to have a slaver building, and then, if I remember correctly, you can set up... Where did it wander to? Here. In the prisoner tab, you can then select how many people are supposed to be enslaved. Here we can also set up and decide how people are supposed to be judged. So here you can totally set up your own rules, basically. So only the fulfillment of imprisoned evildoers will make your folks happy. This is something you really should keep in mind. So the guard post alone on its own does not do anything for the citizens' happiness. It is the persecution of law, basically. And also worth mentioning here, this is different for every species. So the Dondorians, they like when people get a pardon. And, you know, here the tastes vary, as you see. We got this pod up and running now. I personally always find this a little bit ungrateful pod, simply because of the reason that it is a pretty high investment with a pretty lowish return. But at the same time, you really will start to feel it and regret it if you don't have the... if you don't get your criminality under control, you know. So it's a bit of a ungrateful. Yeah. So let's bring this job here back online. So this will be one of our long-term projects, so to say, because you see this masonry, it does require a lot of work there. But the good part is now that over the course of the time we will allocate some extra happiness out of our last project, and now we can set up the rest of the stone industry. So we already know how these things work. The worst part about it is that it'll require, again, a huge amount of workers, you know. This is always the worst part about mining, that it is so darned costly in terms of workers. But on the other hand, you can also see it as something positive by noting that these mines, they give you a wonderful spot to dump your excess workers into, because, you know, at some point in the far-fetched future, you might even reach the point with your city that you don't know where to put your workers anymore. I know this sounds delusional at the beginning of the game, but at some point you really want to see really struggle to see some work for these guys. So the stone mine at this point is, of course, one thing. We're now going to go and copy that warehouse one more time, because, you know, we're setting up yet another city core, like I said. So it is also time to set up some new infrastructure down here. Never forego the setup of extra infrastructure, whatever you do. It really will haunt you if you forego these things. Alright, so whenever you notice that your city's growth is not to your liking anymore, and you notice that your workers are dwindling away, consider lowering the auto-employ ratios somewhere. You know, it's always one way to go. And also we could shut down certain industries if ever the need would arise. But currently we're actually on a pretty cozy spot. The thing here is, as you see, the entire happiness of the city ain't that high. We see here we had a dip in the government happiness. That's because we've spent too many denarii. So in a nutshell, we have to work on our happiness yet again. So that's why I hate law in some degrees. You know, basically you feel it if you don't have it, but you almost don't feel it if you I don't know, you feel it if you don't have it, but you almost don't feel it if you have it. So I'm lowering the amount of guards here because you see the effectiveness of this place goes down. But until I have not even one single person dying a death of murder or anything like that, we don't need that much of a justice system. Funnily enough, it is easily happening in this with this game that you have more justice than you need, just like it has been here. And if that ever happens, well, don't fret. Just let the people off their job and employ them somewhere else. So what can we do here currently with our situation? So here we are at a typical stall. What I personally always love to do is I love to do more science. So here I can clearly see that we would be benefiting a lot from better fruit farming and veggie farming. So at this point, I'm going to go for the double bonus one more time. It's definitely more efficient at this point. And we probably could use better fishing techniques, but this is not that desirable because we don't have that many fisheries. Agriculture, though, is something we do have a lot of here, so that's what I see here. So let's increase the husbandry methods one more time and watch our food stocks grow. So here we are now, again, waiting big time on things. This will happen to you a lot in this game. Take it as a normal state, so to say. Building larger projects in this game does take a while, and whenever you set up several building projects at once, like I did here, my experience was always the same, that it really delayed the buildup of the city by a lot. Whoopsie. When I had too many open building jobs at once. So I strongly vouch for keep your work jobs minimal and don't overdo it at that front, because you really will regret that in the long run. So we're setting up a big industry we don't have the workers for, as you currently might have noticed. That does happen oh so often with this game. So, you know, therefore, we're going to go for another thing, and that's more tech again, because we need to attract more people. We don't have the science points we require, so let's crank up some science points. We can also invest metal to make our labs even more shiny, or we just let time pass by, and what happens here, as you see here, our food techs kick in. There's more food days and more happiness due to that. So you don't always have to set up new services or stuff like that. Sometimes it is enough to make sure that people have enough to eat, or you just fill up your treasuries, or, you know, there's several ways to gather up new workers, but this is a recurring theme in this game, so to say. Here we go. Those extra scientists will bring us the science that we require for yet another massive booster technology, and that's tombs. So it'll require 1,800 tech, which is actually quite a lot, but at the same time, it will bring us such an insane boost of new people there. Why the hell are... Oh, are you again dying even though I told you guys to cut enough trees? Is it that today? Yeah. Yep. That is it today. So this is one of the spirals that I personally dislike a lot, but you have to work with these. So whenever that happens, you know the drill. We're setting back on certain industries. Let's see. Which one should it be today? Oh, well, we can't really set back on iron here. This is so stupid. We had enough workers to do this. Oh, I hate it when that happens. Here, the AI of the game let me down because the hauling distances of the wood were too long, and we haven't had enough odd jobbers. So the odd jobbers we had were stuck in this area here, and the rest of them went on a merry suicide. So yeah, it is as it is. We're going to unemploy the cotton farm, and another thing you can do is we can turn off these workshops for a moment and wait until this shock has subsided. So this is really stupid, but you know, it is as it is. We have to wait until the winter's over again and the wood has been brought into the stockpiles. This is partially my fault because I brought up too much building projects here. So basically the wood they would have needed this winter to survive went into that warehouse. So in a nutshell, take that as a lesson that whenever you build something new, your people won't save anything for their personal needs. They'll just die like little munchkins. That's that. So here we will also have another negative repercussion of what just happened. When our influx of clothing will subside, the meter here for equipment will subside as well. But since this is a rather small advantage there, I pretty much think it will be not much of a big deal. So let's reset that warehouse. Currently, this one is really only necessary for the sake of being there. We're going to require its services later. And now I'm waiting for the recovery. As you see here, wrongful deaths make the society super unhappy, and over the course of the time, they will recuperate from these wrongful deaths, and then they will be happy again. Yeah. And for whatever reason, these jobs here are too far away for them. So, yeah. And these aren't. So this is also a pretty good demonstration of how the AI works again in detail. The people, they prefer jobs that are really, really close by to them. I mean, this is pretty much logical in a way, and there's also the rule that the newest job is the most interesting job. If you use these two rules accordingly, you can avoid most of the disasters that struck me there just a moment ago. This has been mostly my own doing, you know, undoing, however you want to put it. So we are still producing metal at the same time, you know. Whoopsie, wrong spot. We never unemployed the ore miners, so, and as you see here, the people are coming back now. It always takes a time until the shock of the wrongful deaths subsides. There we go. So, as much as they annoy me, these deaths and all, I think it is pretty great that we have them in this series to illustrate what can happen and how to recover from that, you know. Personally think this game is quite forgiving in that regard, because it's really hard to destroy your city entirely, but you will get get bumped back for your mistakes there, as just as I did right there a moment ago. Alrighty, so we almost have the masonry completed. So this area here will be now, of course, a very simple thing. Stone, cut stone, and that's pretty much it. So the justice thing up here, well, for whatever reason it is, the Creightonians are really, really good at staying civil and not doing too much crime. That's, by the way, why we almost don't need these gods. That's also the reason why I will disable them again. But for the sake of the completeness of this tutorial, I just wanted to set these things up and show you the screens necessary there, like these. So, as you see here, we had one theft and one flashing. Is that really what I think it is? So, it's pretty harmless, you know? And the drought has struck us already. But all in all, other species have more problems with criminality than others, you know. Alright, here goes the masonry. We're absolutely not going to have the masonry on auto-employment. This is not tolerable for me, because, you know, they just are too silly. In a nutshell, they are just too stupid. Alrighty. So bread stockpiles are filling up quite nicely, and here's one thing that a new city core always should have. A fetch chest for all the foodstuffs that are available in your town and preferred in your town. So when we now set up a canteen later, let's put that on auto-employ, there will be always food available for the canteen. That's really important because, you know, once the stone quarry people here will start smashing, we are going to have a lot of things here to do. So there we go. First case of homelessness has been reported. Yeah, so new houses are necessary. Alrighty, so since the Creightonians don't care about noise, we can do this quite lazy and just build them up right next to the quarry. Alright. From this point on, this is, you know, there is not really anything new involved here. We already know how these things work, and we are now able to get up our justice system. So you can bring that up for every city. I'd strongly recommend you to do this earlier if you notice that there's a lot of wrongful deaths or criminality in your city. It's one thing that is a good sign for that, but as you saw there is species aren't the same. If I am running a human city, for example, I have way more problems with criminals. Humans are just more criminal, I guess. Why do we have no workers anymore? Jeez. Something is eating my workers now. We had just a accident. Okay, but I think this summarizes things quite well, doesn't it? So I hope you guys had a blast. I surely did. We also blasted away some poor citizens, but that's another day's story. So next episode, we're going to get deeper into the secrets of happiness. I'm going to fast forward yet again a little bit, so we can get ourselves a good stockpile of everything we require. Namely, metal to increase the efficiency of that lab. And then we're going to go next episode into the realm of crypt building and making your city fancy. Very, very fancy. So, thanks for watching, you all. I hope you enjoyed. Leave me your comments down below. And feel free to drop me a thumbs up on that episode if you enjoyed. Consider subscribing. I'd be deeply delighted if you did. And of course, there is a playlist link down there leading you to the entirety of the series. And I had to abandon my entire clothing industry due to that. Shame. Anywho, thanks for watching it again, and see you guys next time. Bye-bye.